Hi.
Hi.
I'm Nick.
I'm Jill.
And
we're HipStrings.
Welcome to day B of the Base12 2023 Spinalong. B is what the rest of us normal Base 10 people would consider as 11.
Yeah.
But in Base 12 it's B. So without further ado, why don't you go ahead and start talking about what day B is, and I'll go ahead and give it a roll. All right.
So, day B is our last hand-carded backs, which is Chilean bellflower. So this is a hand-carded back. It is 65% merino wool, 15% tussa silk, 10% viscose from bamboo, and 10% mulberry silk.
And I just realized I have the one that I am spinning. I can't say what it is because it's a day we haven't done yet. But that's also like kind of obvious, right?
Yeah.
So, gee, I wonder what day this is gonna be.
Well, you have to look forward to. Just ignore his side of the screen.
Just tape up a sheet of paper on this part.
It's exactly the same.
The other funny thing is, you know what day I have left that I'll be spinning tomorrow? Day 1.
So I will finish and you will start.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. So, there we go.
Hello, right. Ashley.
Hi, Ashley. All right. And away. Oh, I was going to say away we go. And of course,
away it went.
Not go. Away went, yes. I'm having a tiring day today.
You have been pushing yourself super hard.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I don't know if you can tell. I'll make sure you can tell if not. But
we stayed up late wrapping presents last night.
How late we stayed up.
And watching Harold and Kumar's Christmas, which is not kid friendly.
It is not an appropriate, it's not anybody friendly.
Yeah. It's not an appropriate Christmas special.
Amy is spinning day 1 today, so.
And then I did a half day at the studio, sending packages, and then
I did some cleaning.
We did some tidying up, and then we went.
As they say in Pittsburgh, redding up.
We read up a bit, and then we went out to an antique shop that Nick had discovered earlier this week.
And before we go into that, I do want to clarify what is redding up, because it's a very specific thing for Pittsburgh. It is the aspect of cleaning, but not like cleaning.
It's the cleaning. It's picking up. It's readying your house for company.
It's readying. That's probably where it comes from.
Probably.
Readying up.
It's making your house ready for company, which is exactly what we were doing.
It's not like scrubbing or, anything like that, using, cleaning, wiping down surfaces included in it. But it's mostly, put away the stuff that doesn't get put away properly on a regular basis. So, all right. So then we went to an antique shop.
Gab is trying to convince us to replace their desk with a 150-year-old.
What do they call it? A flip front?
Yeah, something? A flip front desk.
Yeah, which
probably weighs several hundred pounds.
That's the thing I'm most concerned about. I'm not as concerned about the cost, because clearly it's built to last. But it's a little bit. I don't know how.
Over-engineered is the word.
I don't know how to get it up the stairs. That's the biggest problem. And then we found a bunch of really interesting things at that antique market, especially related even to fiber arts.
Yeah.
So
I'll bring some show and tell tomorrow night.
We should have brought your doll.
I should have brought it down. Yeah.
We can bring it tomorrow. One of the things that I was thinking about showing off, but I didn't because I can't figure out a way to do it effectively. Those old stereographic photos. We found some really good ones that not only were stereographic photos, but they had a good history lesson on the back of them.
And mostly text, and the ones we got were all textile related.
So there was one related to a native in Mexico doing
Sonora
support
and
spindling.
Yes, on what we would generally call a Navajo spindle, but this was not Navajo.
Yeah.
But it was a large supported spindle for spinning wool for rugs.
She was sitting down, and the spindle was on the floor, and maybe the tip of the shaft was
And the remarkable
about this
thing is,
high up at
in
an
the
angle.
background, right behind her, I realized she's sitting in front of a basket that is probably 5 feet tall
Yeah.
and 6 feet wide.
Now, these are old black and white photos.
Yeah.
You know, at latest, they would have been
Probably
from the 1800s.
Yeah, Victorian era, probably.
So, I mean, these are some pretty impressive things. Another one was
One was a cotton mill, right?
it wasn't a cotton mill. They called it a twisting machine.
Okay.
And it was
spinning.
It was spinning. I didn't
Industrial
read,
spinning.
I didn't read the background of it yet, but it was industrial scale, and you're talking about hundreds. But again, this is black and white from the same sort of time period. Hundreds of individual threads going on at once. And then there was one about dyeing silk. And there's this guy with a wheelbarrow carting around giant piles of silk. And you could see tanks in the background and stuff. Oh, really interesting. And then plus there's the fact, because it's this stereoscopic thing, you can use a viewer and see it in 3D, which, you know, looking back in time, black and white, and as you could tell, it's like the opposite of what I did the other day. It's going back into our non-dystopian history sort of thing. I don't know, future history. So that was cool.
And then we made gingerbread houses.
And then we came home and we made gingerbread houses. And I thought it was great that all the family members had some form of story going on with their house. So mine, I used gummy bears to...
Mine was also a domicile for gummy bears.
Yeah. Mine had a little bonfire in the backyard. I cut off the bottom half of the gummy bear to make a child gummy bear, and was making a snowman with his parent. And then there was another child gummy bear sitting behind a snow fort.
Mm-hmm. We used tiny gingerbread houses from IKEA.
Which is hilarious.
You get like a kit for 6, and each house is like maybe 4 inches tall.
So they're actually perfect gummy bear size scaled, right?
Yes.
But I love the idea of IKEA selling gingerbread houses. I mean, that in and of itself just tickles me.
Okay, so Amy watched
episode 1 of Percy Jackson.
And she's headed to Slave Island. I am hoping to be in Slave Island soon.
Well, Slave Island is not an actual place.
Like Finland.
Well, I was trying to figure out, like, is this a place that you two talk about or something? No, it's actually like getting to these sleeves on a sweater.
Yes.
I see. Why is it an island?
I don't know. It's isolated. I feel very alone.
But there's 2 of them.
Desperate. So Slave Archipelago? I mean, it's more like a Slave Peninsula.
Kind of, but there's 2 of
Sleeves
them.
are shaped like peninsulas.
Yes, but there's 2 of
parapeninsula.
them. Yes.
Peninsulae?
Yeah.
Peninsulae.
I don't know. Slave Island rolls off the tongue a lot more than Slave Peninsula. I mean, unless you are knitting bottom up and you have to start your sleeves and then you join them.
Yes.
Then I can see how it's an island. But if you're knitting top down, it's all wrong.
Believe Amy's knitting top down.
Then it's all wrong.
Then they're peninsula. Because they're already attached. Peninsulae, because they're already attached to a landmass.
Yeah.
Welcome to Slave Peninsulae, Amy.
You've heard it here first. God, where were we? So, Jill, what are you wearing today?
My favorite color.
So, Jill is wearing camouflage for our kitchen.
I walked down in the basement. I wasn't wearing this sweater, but I was wearing this button-down shirt and my teal corduroys this morning. I go into the kitchen and Chris is there. And I'm just like, Chris, I think I really like this color. Do you think maybe we should paint a room in this color? And he just like blank stared and did the whole, the one TikTok guy
What?
of the like,
What?
the stupid like hacks.
What? Oh, yeah.
Yes,
okay.
he did that to the kitchen wall.
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
I
was like, yeah, I know. It's a constant joke that I match the kitchen walls.
Well, I mean, your fiber is almost a little bit blending into your
Yes.
spinning as well. Actually, my fiber is blending
So,
more into your spinning.
My
into your
sweater is Granito by Joey Locatelli in BFL sock. I think this was supposed to be exactly the person I want to be, but it's a slightly different blue dye.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost exactly the same as exactly the person I want to be.
So it's almost the person you want to be?
I am almost the person I want to be tonight.
Nice.
And then I'm wearing a hat, which I forget the name because somebody else knit it. And it's in, I don't know, it's in some HipStrings yarn. I forget if it's just like the few times I dyed merino sock yarn, or if it's superwash merino, which would have been like Gifted. Gifted was a very light DK, really a sport weight. But I don't know because I didn't knit it, and so therefore the details don't stick.
Cornwall Crafter, by the way, is saying the color is a fabulous color. So
It is a pretty fabulous color.
teal is your jam.
Yep, my first car was this color.
Was it really?
Yep. Not on like purpose. Not like I got to pick the color of my first car, but
it stuck with you.
it stuck with me.
Clearly.
Oh, I was very happy when my parents picked that car because I
Yeah.
was like, that's my color.
And I can't for the life of me remember the name of this sweater. And I told it to
It's
you
Crazy
right before.
Heart
Thank you.
by
I knew it was
Tanis
something
Leveley.
heart. I was going to be like Broken Heart? No, that's not right. It's Crazy Heart. And this is knit in Bowie DK.
And it's one of the set of 5 sweaters we knit for our family trip to Rhinebeck.
Yeah. So I knit this one. And then
was
you
6
knit
years
your
ago?
own.
I knit my own. I knit Gab's.
Did I knit?
And I think you knit Adrian's. And
Did
I
I
think
knit
I knit
Adrian's?
Chris's.
Yeah. That seems right. I don't remember knitting Adrian's. But I know I knit more than one.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you knit Gab's? Gab's was pink. Adrian's was red.
I just don't remember. I think I may have knit Gab's actually.
Okay. And Chris threw himself down the hill with the sugar maple next to the apple cider donut stand, like for half an afternoon.
Yeah, and the sweater
And
held up.
The sweater was better for it.
This is one of the things that we absolutely love about Bowie is showing off Chris's sweater, where he was, what?
2.
Was he 2 at the time? Yeah, 2-year-old running around in this sweater, and putting it through its paces through an entire day, and it still looked fantastic. I don't think I rolled down the hill so much, but I mean, you can see this this sweater's still pretty old. I probably need to reblock it for a
Yeah.
bit. But yeah. All right, Jill, you got to carry us. I'm
You're
I'm
done.
out of things to talk about.
Spin thicker.
What do you mean to spin thicker?
I
So
think
they
you
could
need to
go
spin a little
faster?
thicker.
Everybody else is sort of petered
Yeah.
out. You can see the. Amber says she is balls deep into Jill's drafting method from yesterday. So awesome. Excellent.
See, I never knew it was going to be a thing. I guess it's going to be a thing.
You got to give it a name. The 3-finger pull or something? Why are you laughing like that? Is that something dirty? Three-finger drafting.
I am tired too.
Yeah. Yeah. And Cornhole Crafter is
Put a
buried
ring on
under
it.
a pile of dogs.
I'm gonna call it put a ring on it.
You're gonna call it put a ring on it?
Yeah,
Why?
because it's your ring finger.
Wow. Okay.
It's catchy.
Yeah. Put a ring on it spinning?
Yeah. Something like that.
I don't know.
We'll have to workshop it later.
Yeah. Yeah. Ashley does agree that the three-finger pull sounds dirty.
See? Ashley's
Just
got me.
Don't quite know why, but yeah, I agree. Hopefully Cornwall Crafter is going to survive being under a pile of dogs, but
I hope so.
I mean, there's only one day left to survive.
I don't think she has very large dogs.
Oh, yeah?
So unless she's dog sitting, I think she's okay.
Yeah.
Really depends on the size of dog.
Hey, do you want to talk about that thing that's on the wall behind you?
Well, there's another thing behind it too that you should talk about.
I think I may have mentioned it before, but I will talk about it again. So this is the little creature.
Nick was knitting a knitting faux fur, and I was just like, why did you not just buy some faux fur and sew this?
So when we were at
It was
I did
Shenandoah.
talk about this. I think I talked about this when you weren't here. When I was with Gab. But I'll do a short version of it. So when we were at Shenandoah, I think 2 years ago, Christopher fell in love with this little monster where we could buy ones from like the actual finished product, or we could knit them ourselves. And I was like, oh, that's a cute project. I'd
Now,
really
do
like
you
to get
wish
the pattern.
you would have bought one?
What?
Or are you
Oh,
happy
do
that
I
you
wish
knit?
I would have bought one? That's a complicated question. So I am happy that I went through the process. I do not think the one that I knit looks as good as the ones that the original creator made, which is not surprising.
Yes. Do you want to knit with Chanel again?
Because I'm a little bit of a masochist, yes. But you cannot count stitches on that. God forbid you drop a stitch. It was fascinating. I was working very hard to count stitches once, and Jill interrupted me like 3 times, and I'm like, Jill, nope, you're counting the stitches on this row now. And I think it broke her.
It did not break me. It just took a while.
But yeah, so the fascinating thing is you cannot see any stitches in the darn thing because the yarn is so fluffy. But it was a fascinating knit. I'm glad I did it. I've got the pattern. Chris is going to be super ecstatic when he gets it.
So the blue and yellow thing, I'll show you later when I finish, when we have extra time, before Nick finishes, is my first woven band. It's woven on a Glamarca band loom. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm actually really excited about doing some more band weaving. I actually am on a long-term loan with a friend's, I think it's a Big Wave, but it's like a rigid heddle meets band loom. It's like a tiny, very narrow, like maybe 5-inch wide 2-harness loom.
Can you knit, weave the full 5 inches wide?
Yes, you
Okay.
can. But it's meant for bands. But I like band weaving because the warps are not very, you're weaving like an inch or 2, maybe width, most of the time, which does not take a long time to wind the warp and dress your loom and thread everything and get it up and running.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're like, I just want to weave, I don't want to dress a loom, band weaving's where it's at.
By the way, Amy says that she has a mini weave and she loves
I know. She's the inspiration as to why I asked my friend if I could borrow this one.
it.
Because Amy used to bring it to Guild in a tote bag and weave on it during Guild.
Portable weaving is so fascinating. Right?
Yes.
We tried to get into that market with the Z-Loom, and I don't think we quite had anything that was significantly better than what was out there. It was good. I liked it.
I still get
But-
requests for it every now and then, but
Yeah.
they're kind of they're kind of a pain to make because they use more than our usual like making set of techniques. And there's some stuff that's involved in that is stuff that we're just not very good at. We're not traditional woodworkers.
Well, I mean, but it is produced in a method that is more in line with what we usually do. But we don't normally have all that stuff in stock.
Yeah.
I think we could do it better now too. It's been a while since we made them.
We need to find a friend with a CNC.
Lenora also loves the Miniwave. John's going to buy a CNC, he says.
No. When he finishes his house?
Yeah.
So in like 20 years?
No, he's gonna buy it to finish his house.
Oh.
Because everybody needs a CNC, a mini CNC to finish their house.
Oh.
I don't even know what crazy projects he's got in mind for that. We have a friend who bought a house, promptly decided that he was going to double the size of the house because he needed a garage.
He built a garage that was the size of the house.
So that he could have a lift for his cars.
And have storage for additional cars.
And since he was building a huge other garage, he may as well build a master suite and a master bath on top of the garage. And you know what? The garage
the side
is big
of the
enough
house
that it can also have 2 other rooms in the area above the garage. So yeah, no, it's pretty ridiculous. But he's doing all the work basically himself. So it is going very slowly.
So what? It's like 5 years into what was supposed to be a 2-year project?
Possibly. Something like that. Yeah. I mean, he's doing a great job with what he's done. And there's always progress.
Mm-hmm.
How did we get on that? I completely forgot already.
I don't know. That's how tonight's going to be.
That's how tonight's going to be, everybody.
Oh, how everybody needs a CNC.
Yeah. 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 And we needed a CNC for the Z-Loom.
Yeah.
We don't need one. It's just a lot. It would be a lot better. We wouldn't have to glue 2 pieces of wood together.
Which was the failure
right
point.
Thickness. Not a failure point. Weak point.
A weak point.
Yeah. But in terms of weaving, you do have your weaving cards.
Yes.
Right? So.
And I have a whole bunch of pretty woods for the new year.
Yeah.
That I've been lasering.
Aren't even listed yet?
No, well, ones that I haven't, like, the fun thing with getting the woods, they may or may not be in stock when I want them.
Yeah.
And so I was able to get some woods that I haven't had in a while. So, like, right now I'm prepping canary wood, which is gorgeous.
Yeah.
The strange thing is when you laser it, it smells a lot like the paper whites.
Oh, really?
In the kitchen. I do have yellow heart, which I haven't done before.
Ooh. Well,
which
purple
is bright
heart.
yellow.
Purple heart's really nice.
We've done purple heart. I'm hoping we're going to see if yellow heart behaves better than purple heart.
Yeah, you don't get quite as high contrast on the purple heart, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I had other issues with purple heart. It's
Yeah.
not the greatest thing to laser.
And there's some of them that have such a high, such a solid grain that they just snap in half.
Yeah, some of them you need
just-
a little bit of an irregular grain. Otherwise, if the grain's too straight, they'll just snap. I've had to discontinue working with some woods because of that. And then other woods don't etch well with the laser, or are hard to cut, or.
So when it comes to these mini looms, you don't use the cards on those.
No.
Right?
It has Texsolve heddles.
Yeah. Okay. And the cards are basically a replacement for the heddles.
Yeah, well, card weaving creates a tiny little 4 harness double weave band. So like the weaving I've been doing, the band loom, is more like ankle weaving.
What's ankle weaving?
A one-sided, typically warp-faced Plain weave with, you can add in pickup to add designs.
Okay. I think I caught that.
Words, 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 words.
Weaving words.
Weaving words.
I at least know you're talking about
Which
weaving.
are some of the oldest unchanged words in the English language.
Oh yeah, so this is something fascinating that you've talked about in terms of things like shed.
The shed in weaving is not named after the building. The building is named after the weaving term.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was amazing. What else?
Weft is the same as it's been since we know. Weft has not changed. I think warp is basically unchanged as two.
Shuttle.
I don't know about shuttle.
You don't know about shuttle? Amy is lamenting that they had the worst time with vocabulary when they started weaving.
There is so much of it.
Well, now I'm curious, like, what else is out there? Because everybody knows shuttle and warp and weft, and maybe they don't know which one's the warp and which one's the weft, but at least they've heard the terms.
There's stuff like lift plan, and understanding drafts is a whole different language.
Drafts?
Drafts are the plan for weaving, and it tells you like what the pattern's going to be, what the repeat is, what colors you need to put into the warp, how you have to thread things, how you hook up your trams your lambs or your treadles. It's like this graphical representation of how you set up a weaving project with no words. There might be some numbers if you're lucky.
Amy says that they are, her language aptitude isn't great, fluent in English and sarcasm, that's it. And Amy also repeated what you had, draft equals weaving for pattern. Which makes sense from that name. I have to take a sip of my pumpkin
weaving
pie seltzer.
is magic. Some of the more complex weave structures are just magic, and I don't know how people ever figured it out. Spinning's so much easier to understand. Twist goes this way, twist goes that way.
I mean, chain ply is a pretty fascinating concept.
Yes, you take a loop and you put it through another loop.
Well, yeah, but then that it makes an even spin.
Yes.
So that it doesn't like have a bump every time that you
well,
make
you
a
can
loop.
have a bump depending on the fiber. If you have too stiff of a fiber, it'll create a bump.
Really?
Yep. Not really good to do chain plying with long wools or really stiff.
Really?
Fibers like bast fibers.
I had no clue.
They won't bend easily enough at the loop, and you actually will get a little bump.
Interesting. I mean, you could do that on purpose.
You could. I think that's what we call boucle. Boucle, you use usually a stiffer fiber to create loops, and the stiffer your fiber is that you use for that strand in your boucle, you can get like perfect circles. And depending on the fiber will depend on what the size of those circles can be in your boucle yarn.
I mean, is that basically how you make terry cloth too, or no? Is terry cloth a more woven thing?
Terry is a type of weave structure.
Okay.
You have little loops that are being brought up from the level of the warp. That's what is called pile in weaving.
Mm-hmm.
When you have bits of the loop or weft that stand up.
And I know about pile from, 80s shag rugs.
Yes. And you can have cut pile, where they actually go and they trim that top loop off.
Which makes the shag rugs.
But yeah, boucle, a lot of the control over the size of the loops is dependent on fiber.
Fascinating. I love doing these because even I learn things.
Strangely enough, in our daily life, I don't just spurt out random facts about fiber arts.
That is completely false. You totally do.
I don't spurt out all the random facts I know about fiber arts.
Amy, by the way, says weaving terry cloth by hand is possible, but it seems insanely labor intensive.
Yes. Like velvet is made in a similar fashion. And
Is it really? I would assume that that's cut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Extremely labor intensive. Which is why fiber arts is one of the first things to get industrialized.
Is that your second half or your second or your
It's
last?
like my last third.
Why would you do that to me? And now I can't gauge where we are.
I'm sorry.
So what are we gonna watch after we do this?
What were we talking about? We were talking about watching Patrick Stewart Christmas Carol.
Yeah, that's a good option.
We were talking about watching Spirited, which
Yeah.
is Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. Basically, Christmas Carol.
Don't spoil that.
What else? All of the other reindeer, but Chris wants to watch that with us.
Yeah. I
We
think we wanted to-
were watching Iron Man 3 because it's at Christmas time.
And apparently Disney Plus does qualify Iron Man 3 as a holiday movie. So Adrian was felt very vindicated by that.
Love Actually, we need to watch.
We've got to do that. Anna and the Apocalypse we haven't watched yet.
Oh yes, we haven't watched that yet either.
Those are our traditional ones. Plus, we need to find some cheesy. There was that one year that we just decided let's go ahead and watch whatever like cheesy Lifetime Christmas movie that Google TV was recommending us.
There's a cheesy Christmas movie that was filmed in Pittsburgh.
Oh, really?
Yes, I don't remember the name of it. I think it was
I'm
on Hulu.
I'm sure.
I'm
if we
sure I can look it
Google
up.
Cheesy Christmas
But
movie in
I did not
Pittsburgh.
share it with you, and it's about not fitting in with your significant other's family.
Cool.
But it's like half filmed in Lawrenceville.
Really?
So, familiar places.
You know, a movie that I haven't watched that everybody's giving me a hard time for is
What?
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
I think I maybe watched that once.
Yeah.
We didn't watch a lot of comedies growing up.
There was we were driving to lunch with the work group and Monday or Tuesday, and there was a car that had that was like your classic
The
80s station
wagon
wagon
with the wood paneling.
with the wood paneling that had a Christmas tree with lights on it on top of it. And I'm like, is that from
Yes,
Christmas
it is.
Vacation? And the guy with me is like, yeah, it's the Griswold car. I'm like, weird.
We also have somebody local that has one of the Jurassic Park Jeeps.
Yes, there is a local Jurassic Park Jeep. It's great. I love seeing it. By the way, Ashley says, not going to lie, I hate that movie. And Amy's saying, what? Vacation is a quotable classic. Yeah. So now we just started a fight in our in our chat. Thanks. Sorry. I only watched Home Alone yesterday, but we already talked about
Yes.
that. All right. You were looking at a lot of textiles at the
It is my thing.
at the antique shop.
I have
I'm
to
trying
go.
see, I try to go pop culture fiber to go back and forth, right?
I have a very large backlog of textiles to go through that were acquired this summer from either my mom or from going antiquing and thrifting this summer. I have really wonderful stuff. that I want to get cleaned up, and so I can share with people.
And this is one of the curses that you have, though. You know, the effort and difficulty that
It is
goes
so
into
hard to
these
leave things
things.
behind. Like, I started collecting doilies. So my great grandmother made doilies and used to be able to make them. Used to make them from memory. Did not work with a pattern. My mom says that she used to be able to go to her and be like, I want a pineapple stitch doily. And my great grandmother would be like, how big do you want it? And she would just go and make a pineapple stitch like doily.
Wow.
My mom has a big like table runner that she made for her, and she did not work from patterns. It was, she knew the basic schematics and worked from there. But I started rescuing doilies from thrift stores or other places where they were being unappreciated. And I actually use them between my china, instead of using some, divider,
Disposable
plastic thing or something. So I just use doilies to separate my china.
Well, especially because if you go to an antique store, a lot of times the doilies will be super cheap.
Yeah, like at a thrift store that Gab and I usually shop at, often I'll be able to get like a pack of like 6 doilies for $2.
Yeah.
And some of them are just beautiful works of art and skill. And so I've been collecting different styles now. I have some tatting. I have some machine. I've found some that are... One that looked maybe like it's bobbin lace, because it looks like woven. It's not machine made. I can tell enough that it's not machine made. I try to focus on handmade textiles. But I have a huge backlog of stuff that I need to clean and decide how it's going to be best used, whether or not it's going to be saved as we should study this, and versus this should separate my china.
Well, what do you want to study out of them?
Just the patterns and stuff.
Yeah. Gab may be able to replicate them at their skill level.
And I have my grandmother. She only crocheted when she was in nurses training, because she didn't like going out, and so sitting and doing crochet doilies was like a cheap form of entertainment. Mm-hmm. And so she made them, but she like collected patterns and stuff. So I've grabbed most of those. She gave them to me. So I have stuff that is family work, as well as from other people. I picked up, I think, 1 crochet bedspread. I have dibs on one that's from one in the family.
Talk a little bit about that, the really, really old blanket that you saw at the antique shop today. The woven one.
Oh, the coverlet.
Yeah.
They had a 1856 coverlet. Beautiful. Like it would have been done on like a draw loom, because it had like the writing in it, and like it wasn't just a generalized overshot. It was definitely
2 colors.
2 colors, navy blue, and ecru. Definitely looked to be hand spun. It was gorgeous. It was $800, so I did not bring it home.
But it was definitely something that belongs in a museum.
Yes. And someday I'm going to visit the National Coverlet Museum in Bedford, PA.
Which Amy just mentioned.
Yes.
I need to go visit the Coverlet Museum in Bedford, PA.
Yes. Maybe I'll treat myself.
Yeah.
And on my drive down to Maryland this year, I'll stop at the...
Stop by there?
It's on the way.
So what defines a coverlet?
So a coverlet is typically a woven, like kind of, usually like overshot is a very common weave structure for it. So overshot has you're weaving with 2 different wefts. One is a thicker one that has the illustrates the pattern, and then a tabby, which is just plain weave and a much thinner thing. So that works, it kind of disappears so you don't see it, but that holds everything together. And it ends up making a fairly thick weave, and usually they were woven in 2 panels and then seamed together as a bed covering.
The seam is right down the middle?
Right down the middle, and the real skill is to have your weaving be identical for those 2 panels, so that you have this big complex pattern and it matches exactly, and you seam it so that seam disappears.
That's
and
cool. That must be difficult to make that seam disappear.
Yeah, so it's
You're
and if
spinning too
you
thin.
yeah, I know, sorry. But they were usually woven on large looms. There is, I think it's the Burroughs Garrett is this guy who does historical weaving. And he's woven some coverlets.
And Amy notes something. Amy, you can tell this is her jam weaving. He's noting that the consistent beat is also where the skill is shown.
So you have the same picks per inch, ends per inch. You're being consistent.
and for those of you that are not well versed in weaving, the beat is when you throw the yarn across, and then you pull it back. You pull the bar back in order to beat everything together.
It's the density of the weft threads.
And when I first did my first bit of weaving, I was weaving a yoga mat, and I would just jam as hard as I could every time, and then realized that I wasn't going anywhere, and it was not very good. And then Jill made me realize that no, you're supposed to give just a certain level of pressure, and actually even depending on how much you expect the yarn to
bloom, and you have to leave space.
You have to leave a little bit of gap. So getting that calibrated just right is difficult. So it's the more that I wove, I was like, well, this isn't necessarily just a fast, cheap way of creating
do this
particular fabric.
Consistently for probably 14 feet of weaving?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
At you're probably talking 12 picks per inch?
Is that how many rows per inch?
Yeah.
Okay. The picks per inch?
Yeah.
See, learning more of this vocabulary.
So having the same spacing over thousands of beats. Nice, Nick. Bringing it back to the pop culture.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm done there.
Gab found a fantastic Victorian silk cape.
Oh yeah.
But unfortunately, it showed some wear at the hem and it had some evidence of insect involvement.
Yeah.
And they actually wanted to wear it, not just store it and look at it longingly. But it was gorgeous.
It was. If it wasn't for the fact that the fabric was starting to
fall apart
at the bottom, I would have totally been in support of it. But in other weird things, I now feel extremely old because they had a lunchbox that I had when I was a kid as an antique item, which I guess technically falls under the antique.
Well, there used to be I can remember, I think it's 30 years is vintage. It has to be over 50, I think, to be antique.
Oh, okay.
But it depends on who
then
you
they
talk
were just
to.
Wrong. I wouldn't quite yet consider a Transformers plastic lunchbox from the 80s
Vintage?
as antique, but Maybe it was just vintage. Hey, you're done.
I'm done.
Yay. So, yeah. I actually have 2 dad jokes for today. One I told you before.
Yeah.
And this is shared by Ashley.
Submitted by a viewer.
Submitted by a viewer, yeah. I'm trying to decide, should I do it my modified way or the original way? But I'm going to do my slightly modified way. So, why did the Roman Empire fall? You could say the answer since you know it.
What?
You could say, why did the Roman Empire fall?
Because they cut it in half with a pair of Caesars.
All right, so now I'll give the one, because I think what's more important than the joke is your groan. I'll give the one that you haven't heard. Because I love puns. I love puns. So this is why we do this, right? But I love puns about steaks the most. It's a rare medium well done. No? All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us and sticking around with us, especially in our low energy mode. You can tell it's taking us progressively longer to get through this.
It is.
But tomorrow is the last day, so I hope you join us. We've actually seen on the Discord that some people have already finished their Base 12 because they were so excited about it, and I'm sure others will be spinning it into the new year, and all of that is okay. But we're happy that you're here with us. We'd love for you to join the Discord, follow our YouTube, subscribe.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
Smash that subscribe button.
Yeah. Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Subscribe, ring the bell. I don't know. We're bad at this. But yeah, we're bad at all of this. What can I say? Thank you. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
The fiber's good.
The fiber's good.